Hey, welcome back. This is episode 2. Welcome back to the Shaman Circle. This is your neighborhood shaman, Allie Blair, AB. And today we are diving into my personal journey into shamanism. Now, I'm sharing the story so listeners have a better idea of who I am, my purpose, my mission in this world, and my reasons on creating a podcast and sharing my voice in this specific way. Now, we touched a bit on this in the last episode, but that was more so about Lone Wolf District as a whole. This episode is all about me. It's all about me and my unique, specific journey to becoming a shaman. Now, sharing this story matters for a couple different reasons. I think, as I said, I believe in our trailer. It's important for you to know who you're listening to and who you're learning from. I think that's important. And I also want to do my part as a shaman, as a modern day shaman, to normalize the ancient practices of shamanism. I also want to give a humble nod to Siberia, where this term stems from. To my knowledge, I'm not a part of Siberian lineage or history or ancestry in any way, and yet I do call myself a shaman. I am an ancestral shaman. I am a shaman by birth and by trade, but I did not start using that term until several years ago, about 5 years ago. But this is something that has been a part of my life's journey from a very young age. And so I hold a deep reverence for that term. I understand if there are indigenous shamans who may not agree with my use of that term, but my ancestors, my lineage, my spirit team, my God has bestowed that term to me. And I use it with deep reverence, deep respect, and a deep understanding of the responsibility that comes with shamanic work. So here we are, my friends. This is my journey here. Now, I don't think I need to give a full hour monologue of my entire childhood story, but these shamanic nudges started at a very young age. The first time I can remember seeing something and feeling something that quote unquote wasn't there was when I was 5 years old. I was in my childhood home. I was playing downstairs, and I know my mom had gone upstairs, and I had heard her call my name, Allie, Allie. And so I had gone upstairs, and I remember saying, "Yeah, Mom, what do you need?" or "What's up?" And I remember her looking at me very confused and saying, what do you need, sweetie?" And I said, "Well, you called me." She said, "No, I didn't." And behind her was, the only way I can describe this is maleficent, but with only pure intentions. Like, that's what I saw behind my mom, was just this regal, royal queen. And it was so vivid at such a young age. And I remember looking at this figure, this woman, and she just gave me a little smirk and then like floated into the wall. And that was my very first experience with the otherworldly. Several years later, that was when I was 5, I'm very open about this, so I don't mind sharing for, public podcast consumption. I suppose I may say a bit of a trigger warning here. My path to shamanism, as most shamans can agree, most healers can agree, it's not a path of sunshine and rainbows. We don't become a healer because shit's good. We become a healer because we get good at sitting in the shit. So, quick trigger warning, my brother was killed a week before my 12th birthday, and that has played a very big part of who I've become now as a human being. I honestly believe that I live on his behalf as well, and that I carry a deep responsibility when it comes to my brother. And I share that because he had passed was killed in a car crash, and we had the funeral, I believe, 12 days later. And I remember my black heels were sinking into the ground. This was in January, and I think it had just snowed, so the ground was pretty wet. And I remember walking across the cemetery, and my black heels were getting stuck in the grass. And we finally got to the gravesite, and I'm looking down at this coffin that I know my brother is in, and yet here we are in the distance, I can see him again with a very similar smirk, just observing everything from a distance. And that, the thing that happened when I was 5 years old, I do believe that really happened. But I also believe I was a very imaginative kid, right? Like I had a really cool imagination when I was like 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, right? But now here I am, about to be a teenager now. I'm in middle school. Like I've developed a little bit cognitively, right? But at this point, I realize, oh, that's different. And that, seeing my brother in the distance as we were honoring him at a gravesite, that was when I realized I was in this world and not necessarily of it. And that was really the opening to walking down this path of believing in things that not everybody else can see. No, it was a very, as much as I love, where I am now and who I am now, without having any guidance, that was a very isolating thing to be able to do as a kid, like I'm in 8th grade trying to have a normal conversation with someone at school and I can see their grandma like pointing them on the shoulder behind them. Like it was a very odd and isolating experience to kind of have one foot in the human world and the spirit world pretty much at all times. Because of that, for better or for worse, I went inside a lot. I hung out with myself a lot because I didn't have to explain myself to myself, right? Like it was both isolating and secluding, some of which was my own doing, looking back, probably for the sake of my own safety. So yeah, it was a very interesting childhood that I had. Now, fast forward several years, a decade plus. That was when I was 5, that was when I was 12, and then, we go through the teenage angst and the depression and the anxiety, and there was an eating disorder and the sexual trauma and the suicide attempt and all of these things, right? All of these things that accumulated to 2019, when I was living in Philly. I mentioned Philly in the last episode. Philly was like the birthplace of Lone Wolf District. It really was. But I found myself there, sitting on South Street, rock bottom in 2019. And that was a very pivotal moment where everything kind of shifted from, I know I can see things other people can't, to I believe there's a good reason why. And so Philly, I was there for 2 years. It was a very transformative, very painful, very heartbreaking, very transformative 2 years in Philly. And there was this one woman I remember. I want to share a quick story. I was sitting on Front and South Street overlooking like Columbus Boulevard. Anyone who's from the area, I'd like to think you know what I'm talking about. I believe I have my crossroads correct. But I was sitting at the end of, or I guess the beginning of, South Street, smoking a J, minding my business, being alone in the world, being a loner. And this woman and her partner and their grandbaby started walking up. And like, plant medicine is a very big part of my life. If you're new here, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. I suppose I can. It's my podcast. I smoke a lot of weed. I was kind and respectful, and I put my shit away. And this woman came up to me and then asked me for a lighter, and I was like, "Oh, like here you go." And then we started consuming and conversing together. And I couldn't remember what this woman's name was. I met her that one time and I never saw her again. And I don't remember her exact words, but after she gave me back my lighter, she said something along the lines of, "Yeah, I can tell you've been going through some stuff right now." And that, I just spilled. I vomited. I emotionally vomited on this woman. And she just sat there and listened. And then when I finally finished, a few moments went by and she just very quietly, very confidently, very gently said, God is ready for you when you're ready for him. And she got up, and her family walked away. And I swear to all that is holy, that woman was a walking angel. Just there at the right place at the right time to deliver the message I needed to open up a door to God. And that evening, when I walked home, because I lived on, where were we? 13th and Locust. So we had, a solid 15, 16, 17 blocks there. And I walked back, and I mean, good God, I saw sign after sign from 1-800-Jesus or whatever on the side of a bus. And then there was a flyer from a church. And then I saw a church that I've been walking this route for months now, but never noticed that specific church. And it just, the walk back to my condo that evening was literally the walk into the spiritual realm for me. And that was when I really started to understand that there was something to understand behind all of these signs and nudges, and I can hear the little thoughts in the back of my head, and I can see the little gremlins running around people, and I can see colors around people. Like, this was the moment where it was like, oh, there's something to explore here. Now, from 2019, I moved back home from Philly to Maryland, and I had two women take me under their wing, and they hired me for a cool job at a magazine, and they introduced me to the concept of both personal development and professional development. And that changed everything. I learned about affirmations. I learned about meditation. I learned what it meant to be kinder to yourself. I learned what it meant to combat the monkey mind, that voice in your head that just tells you that, like, you're not worth it and everything sucks and all the things, right? Like, there was a solid 6-8 months of 2019 that I was just introduced to a lot of things. And then COVID happened. We had the pandemic. I shifted from working to a magazine to starting my own thing and holding these gratitude gatherings where I was using my intuition and using my shamanic gifts, but I had no idea that's what I was doing. I just thought I was like a naturally good facilitator. It turns out, no, you were just channeling and letting, spirit lead the way. Here we are, right? And so over the years, I when was it? That was 2020. In 2022, a friend introduced me to the concept of Reiki, which has a big role in the shamanic work that I do. Reiki is kind of the door that I open to the shamanic world, if that makes any sense at all to my fellow healers out there. And so this friend at the time, she took a Reiki 1 training with someone in Maryland, didn't like it, found someone out in Delaware, and she was going to take her second training. I looked her up. She was a Black woman. Holy shit, I've never seen a Black woman in this space before. I was really fucking excited, immediately signed up for her training. Ended up taking Reiki 1, Reiki 2, Reiki 3 with her, June, July, August of 2022. And then September through March of 2023, I took 2 trainings at the same time, 2 simultaneous 6-month trainings, one to become a Reiki master and one to become what she called an emerging shaman. And I learned in that period that shamanism has been in my blood, in my practice, in my work, since before I ever knew what personal development or inner work even was. And so I was introduced to something, but in reality, I was really being called back to it. And from then on, I've been knee deep in the shamanic woo-woo. I say my Reiki ideals every single day. I've been meditating for over 1,300 consecutive days. I've gotten really, really good at getting really, really quiet in my mind so that I can travel through the dimensions and the worlds and the realms and all of the things. The biggest lesson I've learned through 6 years of daily shamanic practice is that consistency and devotion to your craft will take you light years ahead of your peers. I truly believe I am as good at what I do as I am because I've gotten really good at getting really quiet. I have gotten really good at sitting in discomfort. And I've gotten really good at befriending my own demons. And by doing that, I've turned out to be pretty good at sitting with others as they do that themselves. I think it's important to share part of this shamanic story and to share this shamanic wisdom throughout this podcast because there's a lot of misconceptions around shamanism. This has actually happened last week. A woman from a church was soliciting vendors, and there were 15 vendors working around me, and each tent got a flyer, and then she came up to my tent and said I wasn't a good fit because I did aura readings and that wasn't welcome in the house of God. Ma'am, I work for God. Hello, I didn't realize God had hired you to judge all of his children. Wow, what a responsibility. Here we are. There are so many misconceptions around shamanism because it's very taboo. Like shamanism, Reiki, this like ancestral magic, spiritual healing, like all of this is what yoga and meditation was 50 years ago. It's weird, it's taboo, it's, I don't know, it's creepy, it's scary, but it's not. It's just new, which is funny because it's not new at all. It's actually ancient. But this patriarchal society that we live in has conditioned us to forget the magic that quite literally lives in our veins. And so to us, we think it's new, which then means it's scary, uncomfortable, whatever, you know? So I'm hoping that not just by sharing my personal story in this podcast, but overall in the journey of the Shaman Circle, that we can dispel some rumors that this is demonic, or it goes against God, or it's not real, or it doesn't exist. Like, we don't see gravity, but we feel it. Like, we know gravity exists, right? Like, it's truly, truly magical what can change in your life when you choose to believe in things that you cannot necessarily see. And I am intending to share my story so that you can open your mind up to things that you may not be able to see yet, because there is a lot of beauty in the spiritual realm if you choose to feel it, even if you can't see it. There's a big part of me that also feels like it's a responsibility as a shamanic healer, as a community leader, as a Reiki teacher. It's our duty, it's our obligation to share this work with the world. And so I'm hoping that we can reach a good amount of people and the right people and the aligned populations to get this work out into the world. I am hoping that not just the concept of shamanism, but hopefully as you explore these concepts yourself, specifically with different categories and different topics and things like that, I'm really hoping that we can bring a sense of hope to you. You know, I'm not sure when you are listening to this, but at the time of this recording, the world is like crumbling before our very eyes, and it wouldn't hurt to have a little bit of faith and hope to hold on to, you know? So I'm hoping that by sharing this work, we can open a door to hope for those that need it. So again, similar to my origin story with Lone Wolf District, God knows there will probably be some sort of autobiography, memoir, what have you, of my life's journey into, you know, stepping into the shamanic work. And what's really cool is that as much as I've done in the shamanic world and in this realm, I do feel like it's just the beginning. So I'm very excited to see where this journey takes me and where it takes us as a community. So with all of that said, I will leave you here, my friend. I hope you enjoyed listening to the story of the lone wolf shaman. I hope you found some sort of wisdom or hope or encouragement that you can absolutely hit rock bottom and still create a life that you absolutely love. What a gift that is possible, my friend. I am living and loving proof of it. So I will leave you there. In our next episode, we will discuss something very interesting and near and dear to my heart. We're going to talk about race and the wellness industry and what it looks like to be biracial in the wellness industry. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here. I hope you have a fantastic day, evening, weekend, month, life ahead, and I'll see you on the other side.